This Thrive Loud episode is brought to you by Hinge Consulting, Allscope, and Animoto.
Welcome back to another episode of the Very Serious Business Podcast. The show that explores the old ways of making money are the only ways. Today, we'll speak with Humperdinck Elderman, a man whose motto is, if you're happy in your field of work, then you're obviously not working hard enough.
Hold up. Humperdinck? Seriously? I don't think so. Welcome to 2018, people, the year where we strive to thrive each and every day. And don't use words like Humperdinck. Want to know how you can get started? You need to listen to the amazing episodes that Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond has to offer. Want to jumpstart your business? Thrive Loud. Looking to be inspired? Thrive Loud. Want to work smart and not hard? Thrive Loud. Drop kick the old stuffy way of doing things and get out there and change the world. Listen to Lou Diamond as he brings you the smartest leaders and most dynamic guests with the most energizing messages. Listen to Thrive Loud and you and your business will start thriving too.
Get ready to Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. Today on Thrive Loud, we bring you speaker, media consultant, syndicated talker. She is all about creating visibility for connection, bigger business, and better relationships. She hosts a radio program on NBC Sports Radio, and she has a new book out, Deal Your Own Destiny, which just launched recently, which we're all excited to talk about. And you're all going to learn why. She's just simply awesome. Thrive Loud fans, Kate Delaney. Kate, how are you today?
Oh, thanks so much for having me on. I was so looking forward to this, so much, in fact, that I skipped my golf game today.
Okay, which I will tell you, as cool as I might think I am, and maybe people love this program, the fact that you had to skip out on a tee time is not good. We're gonna make sure that we get you back out on the course and then you start hitting the ball. So Kate and I recently met. Kate is an amazing speaker. She is a bundle of energy, has a great voice, as you'll learn throughout this interview, and a really good message as well. What I want to do, Kate, to kick things off, kind of hand you the baton, or maybe more appropriately, I'm going to give you the honor on the tee box. And I'm going to let you take the first drive out here and share with the Thrive Loud fans kind of how you got your journey where you are. And we're going to have a fun conversation. I know it's going to be back and forth. So I'm going to let you take the honor. The honor's yours. Tee it up.
I love that, Mr. Diamond. Thank you so much. If we were standing here talking and we were, let's say, in a sort of man cave, I would tell you that the way things kind of started for me, and just the brief thumbnail, I always knew. I grew up in Queens, and then we moved to Philadelphia, and I grew up in a family of sports fans, and I always knew that I wanted to be a broadcaster, and I figured there weren't many roads for women as far as sports was concerned. So when I got out of school, I went to Ohio University and got a journalism degree. I became a television anchor woman. And along the road, when I was in Santa Barbara, California, one of the guys I worked with said, you need to do sports because I think you know more about sports than I do. So he goaded the news director, really pushed him into letting me fill in. I filled in. And then the rest is history. Although I will tell you, for everybody listening, whether you have a resume, a CV, whatever it is, and you're always trying to up level or get to another position, and you're interviewing and you've got your products or whatever it might be, the product for me then was myself and my appearance on TV and how I sounded. So I knew I had to get a good, what they call resume tape together. And I had the chance to fill in. And when I was filling in, all the guys were giving me the thumbs up. I'm in this cold, dark studio, and somebody hands me a script. So I'm reading kind of off of a teleprompter, and I'm an ad-libber, so I'm ad-libbing. And there's this breaking news story, and the breaking news story is that Darryl Strawberry has a slipped disc. I didn't say disc.
Oh,
Lou.
My God.
And I realize that at that moment, I all of a sudden see these guys that are giving me the thumbs up and waving and trying to really encourage me, I see them laughing hysterically out of the corner of my eye. And then I realize the cameraman is bouncing the camera up and down because he's laughing so hard, and he has cut my head off. So then all I think in my head, Lou, is that there goes my resume tape. I don't even realize what I had said. But the good news about this is that a year later, when all the ratings were laid out, that weekend was the highest rating. That particular show I was on was the highest rated show. So I was pretty popular.
By the way, spectacular story. So funny. And you got to love the fact, by the way, that's what they call a happy accident, Kate. That, like where these things that happen probably get the attention, the higher ratings and every part about that. And just out of curiosity, when that happened, did it occur to you that you said it, or you needed to be told it afterwards?
I needed to be told afterwards that I had said it because I didn't realize why everybody was laughing. I was filled with adrenaline, and I knew I was just trying to cream it, and I was focused on what I was doing. So I had no idea that I had made that little faux pas.
So I want to ask this. By the way, the connection gets in Kelowna. I grew up in Queens in Rockaway Beach, and obviously I'm a lifelong suffering Mets fan, which is a story in itself. When you mentioned Darryl Strawberry, I smiled for about a second, then realized the only World Series he won was with the Yankees. That's not important right now. I wanted to address this. You made a great point. It was really challenging to crack through as a woman in sports at that point. And I think it's getting better in every avenue, and probably, the path that you've helped pave really opened doors for a lot of different people. And what's interesting is after you do things for a certain amount of time, sometimes it could become habitual. I want to ask the question, do you still have the passion for it as you did when you first started?
I do have the passion for it. I think that's so important. Whatever you're doing, who's ever listening to this, that passion fuels, I think, the reason why you do what you do, and ultimately why you thrive. If you're going to get to thrive and really feel alive, I think the passion part is such a key piece of it. And if you don't find the passion, you need to see if you can get it back. And if you can't get it back, then I think you need to be doing something else. So I always knew I wanted to, in some aspect, be a part of the sports world. I wanted to keep doing what I was doing. And I managed to be able to do that throughout my career. And currently today, I found out today through an interview with a reporter that I'm the only woman who has a solo syndicated sports talk show in the nation. So that's syndicated, so national. And that's on the NBC Sports Radio Network. And I still have as much passion for it now as I did then.
So I want to share a quick personal story here that's so funny. And that is that I am a huge sports fan as well. And those who know me personally know there is no sport that I will not find interesting. I'll always take it in for what it is. The Olympics is always a wonderful time for me because, getting used to skeet shooting or luge sledding, whatever it might be, or skeleton even interests me with all of that. Now, I would call in often on Sirius XM satellite radio. Actually established a relationship as a regular caller on a certain program. I was going to ask this question. Does your program have callers that calls into the program? My
program does. And the program is on Sirius XM 205.
All right. So here's the cool thing. One, I'm dialing in one of these days because that's going to happen. I'll just be persistent enough to keep getting in. The second is this. I will tell you that my experience in calling in the radio, I actually had people tell me that you have a great voice for radio. At least they didn't say I looked so great, but they did make a comment that I'd sound great. And I want to translate this into the two mediums. Working in radio is great because you get to focus on your voice and the message and be a great listener. Translate how you've been able to channel your skills as a broadcaster into being a speaker.
Wow, that's a great transition, great question. And the answer to that is, as a broadcaster, particularly because I did television too, but particularly with the radio skills I developed, is that I'm very good at improving and I can interact with any audience. So I feel that gives me that little bit of an extra edge. And what would happen is, as a personality, people would want me to come and speak because they were curious. I'd be a celebrity in whatever area wherever I lived. And they, different clubs would ask me to come and speak. And then I realized, well, wait a second, I can make money at this because one, I like it. 2, I do have a message to share that I think can have an impact on the bottom line of whoever's talking to me, whether it's personally or professionally. And I was able to take, again, that ability to engage an audience, interact, and really tap into that and weave it into a couple of different messages of what my expertise was. And it really has paid off for me. And I'm starting to see where I'm hitting that thrive level with more and more engagements. And I love it. And because I think in talk radio, I know I interact with callers. So interacting with the audience and them feeling comfortable about me has really made that work for me. And the references, etc., the referrals rather, from people coming to see me speak, it's been phenomenal.
It's really interesting. The Thrive Loud fans would remember one of our earlier episodes. We had Mary Carrillo on the program, and who's one of the better communicators, not just as in her work in real sports and on tennis. And she said something really interesting. She's a natural storyteller, and she spun her TV work. And remember, because most of the time when you're doing commentary for a live tennis match, the camera isn't on you. You're just telling the story along the way. That interactive play-by-play or color commentary sports helped her in the way that she would tell stories both on real sports and when she speaks. And I find, the ability to use the spoken word as your line of work, which is what you do, to have the different mediums, I think helps, because the ability to listen as a listener also helps when you're interacting when you speak, which is where I wanted to go with this. You've had some pretty interesting interactive speaking gigs and presentations that you do. Can you share with the Thrive Loud fans a little bit about what you speak about when you actually do your keynotes and your addresses and your workshops? Because I think it's really interesting and how you interact with your audiences.
Yeah, it's great that you said Mary Carrillo. I've spent some time with her, and she's fantastic, by the way. But talking about the listening aspect of it, one of the key workshops I do, I get asked to do deep dives on this all the time, is a thing I call influential listening, because we live in a fabulous world with technology, which I embrace and love. If we can innovate it, I want to hear about it. There's no question about that. But it also has led to a lot of distraction for a lot of people. So we already live in a world where if you hear 25% of what's being said to you and you're digesting it and really taking it and understanding it, then you're doing pretty well. So, Lou, I don't know about you, but you think 25%, that's not very much. And influential listening is all about, what do I do to become the next level listener? How do I do that for greater profits and bigger connection? And some of what you have to do seems so obvious, which includes resisting the urge to look over the shoulder of the person that's speaking, waiting for someone more interesting to come along, which happens at a lot of conventions and a lot of places where you can make those better networking possibilities that could lead to bigger business. Or even if you're doing kind of a one-on-one thing and you're having a conversation, but you're not really paying attention because you've got all kinds of emails open, you're looking at other things. It's natural to be distracted when you have things going off in the background. So I talk about what does it take to become an influential listener, and why, if you get that skill down better and better and better and take it to another level, how that paying attention will pay off for you in spades. It will be unbelievable. And that's a heavily requested speech that I do. The other one is, what's your wow? How do you clearly, confidently, concisely describe who you are? Mm-hmm. We live in a world where even still people have business cards that don't really say what they do. I'll give you an example. I speak to a lot of lawyers, and it'll say attorney at law, Esquire, blah, 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 and it'll have the law firm's name. But what kind of law do they practice? Are they in trials a lot? Are they fantastic trial lawyers? Are they security lawyers? Have they won millions of dollars in judgments for their clients? It doesn't really describe, when you just have a label, what you do. That branding piece, personal branding, is big for the everyday Joe to famous people, athletes, etc., or rock stars in business. If you want to be a rock star, you have to be able to let people know what you do.
Yeah, it's great, by the way. And I'm kind of smiling and laughing, one, because part of my whole mastering the art of connecting is the importance of listening and the power of empathy and really stepping into the shoes of another. And I love that exercise you're referring to in getting to that other level of listening and working on those. And those are some great exercises, which you and I can chat about offline, just some really fun ways of working and helping people take it to the next level. I'm also laughing a little bit because in the What You Do, I actually went to a conference once and someone handed me a business card, Kate, and the card actually said top line enablement growth energizer. And I stopped and said to the guy, so what the heck is this? And he's like, I'm a top line enablement growth energizer at my firm. And I stopped and I go, are you in sales? What does this mean? And a lot of times people have gotten so creative into saying, well, this is what I do. I'm supposed to energize the top line. So they made it part of my card. I go, well, maybe we can get a little bit more tactical. Having people really know, like you said, that, wow, oh, that's what you do is so important. And connecting with that is great. Along those lines, Kate, here's the question. You've just written a new book. Deal Your Own Destiny. What inspired it, and what is its core focus of what you try to address in the book?
Well, in the book, really what inspired it is that I had so many people tell me, oh, I wanted to do what you did, or, oh, I was supposed to go down a different path, but instead I ended up at this job and I kept working there. And so I stayed there. And 10 years later, we had our first child, or my life took a different turn. And I really wanted to do this. I kept hearing, I really want to do this. I really should have done this. I was dissuaded from doing what I thought I really wanted to do. And deep down every night I think about it and I thought, wow, why are people not pursuing what they feel passionate about? And part of it is fear, and part of it is others dissuading them. You know, it's like the delay of game, not telling people that you shouldn't do this because you could make more money doing X, Y, Z, or you could play it safe and work for this company. And every 2 weeks you'll get your paycheck. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but really deep down, they had that entrepreneurial spirit, but they didn't ignite it. They had that fire inside of them. So the reason I did the book was all about that, because I had interviewed 15,000 people, Lou, can you imagine?
Wow.
A lot of them incredible, mega successful people in the world of business and in the world of sports. And what did it take for them to deal their own destiny and really end up where they ended up, with amazing financial gains that allowed them to help other people to live the lifestyle they wanted to live. So how do you get to that point? And I took a lot of those incredible lessons that I learned from them and share them with the readers. And then I give you ways that you can apply that. So to me, if I give you all the information, I tell you fabulous, fun, incredible stories, woohoo, that's great when you're sitting there at the Jersey Shore, wherever, reading the book. But then are you applying it? How do you implement it? Because to me, it's no good if I give you all these amazing little nuggets of information that could help you, but you have no way to get there yourself. So in the book, I give you a way to map it out, to come up with your own plan to deal your own destiny and not be afraid to take that leap.
So I'm going to ask this question because I've written a book, and you have, and others have as well. And there's sometimes challenges for people who are as extemporaneous as you and I are, speakers, broadcasters, hosting your own radio show, and then formulating that into a book. How is that process for you in putting together Deal Your Own Destiny as a writer?
That's another great question. All your questions are good, by the way. Don't you love when someone says, well, that's a great question. Well, of course, you know how to do this. You're good at it. And you do your homework. The thing is, you said it, when you're extemporaneous, you have to be able to concisely write something that has an impact, I think, and is clever and witty and all the things that probably you are, I think you are, and that I am. So how do I not take my personality out of it? And you just nailed it. I write like I talk. Somebody can always, and of course, my book was published by Forbes. You have I had 4 editors going over it, and that's what happens. They, is the period in the wrong place? No worries. It's more about talking, I think, writing like you talk, so it's conversational and it's a good read, and it's not a stiff read. Good business books, to me, don't have to be these big tomes that you can't understand. We're not in college taking some master's level course or whatever. I think the idea is to relate to the reader like you do the way you speak. So your personality doesn't get pulled out of it. So that's what I did. I stayed focused. Every day I set time aside to write. I would go back and make sure it was relevant and useful information, because that was important to me. I had other people look at it. And of course, as I mentioned, I had all those editors because I wanted it to be in my voice.
By the way, kudos to you and a really great job, because we know it's going to be a success. And not only that, it is hard to do that. I joke about doing it in your own voice. I think the era we're in today with podcasting, for obviously tons of the radio broadcasting that you're doing, people being authentic in every medium of content that's out there, that we have gotten so far away from that old school way of, like the English teacher looking over your shoulder and how that's supposed to be written or it's supposed to be, versus really embracing the authenticity that you bring out. That is what connects. That's why you have so many great listeners on your program. That's why people love to hear you speak, and that's why they're going to love the book. So I can see that that's what that's what people want today. That ability to really connect with the content creator. So I'm excited to read it. We're going to give all the plugs and all that in a minute, but I wanted to ask this question, which I ask all of the guests on Thrive Loud. And that is, you are killing it. You're speaking, you're on the radio, you're everywhere. You're now an author. All these crazy things are going on in your life, and they're moving 100 miles an hour, and you live in Texas, which is pretty cool. My question to you is, on the days when you're not on your A game and you're not truly thriving, who or what do you turn to get yourself back on the thriving track?
Well, what I try to do is I've had to teach myself, and it was very hard to do, but I had to figure out a way, because I'm always moving, to set aside some time to meditate, even if it was just for 5 or 10 minutes, to reset myself. So I'll do that. I'll do 5 minutes. I'm up to 5 minutes, which is amazing, because I have that whole Northeast thing going on where I'm moving 100 miles an hour. So that really helps me, because it centers me and it makes me what I call reset. And then for inspiration, I go to some of my favorite people, and I'll read something that they've written, whether it's Jay Papasan, my pal who wrote The One Thing, or whether it's Og Mandino, who wrote the book The Greatest Salesman in the World. I'll read little snippets of that, or the War of Art is another one of my favorites too. And I find that helps me reset. Why am I here? Why am I doing this? How do I get back on track? Or even if I can, I'll take a little bit more time and I'll try to go out and do something more physical, like take a run. Or we mentioned golf. I love to golf. So if I can go to one of my favorite places, and it's not a plug for them, is a place called Top Golf, where you go and you hit targets.
Oh yeah.
And I'll go and I'll do that. Sometimes I'll get somebody to meet me out there, or if I have to go myself, I'll go myself. And it's good. It makes me feel good, and it's a good way to reset. You got to take a break sometimes. I think when you're thriving and you're going 100 miles an hour, sometimes you lose the balance, and bringing yourself back for however long it is, whether it's only a half an hour, but bringing yourself out of it, snapping out of it, and then going back to what you were doing. I think that's the way to do it.
I like it. And a shout out I'll even give. I went to Columbus, Ohio. We did some work with a very large insurance company that's in Columbus, Ohio. You could look it up and figure out who it is. And we did an evening out of Top Golf. I'd never done it before. I love your traditional golf, but that's a lot of fun. It's a pretty cool activity. It's basically like they took miniature golf, bowling, and golf itself and crashed it all together into a fun environment. I'm a big fan. So I think and it's growing like crazy. I know that company is going through the roof. Let's take the time right now. it comes better. Listeners love to hear it better from you than they'll read it in the show notes and everything. So, Kate, give all the plugs and places that people can find you, where they can get the book, and we'll make sure to mirror all of that on the show notes.
So the book is just up today. It's perfect that we're doing this. It's up today for pre-sale. You can go to KateDelaneySpeaker.com, KateDelaneySpeaker.com, and if you pre-order the book, I throw in my tip book, my Deal Your Own Destiny tip book. So tips for becoming extraordinary. And so you get a 2 for there. You can find all things about me also on that website. Sirius XM 205 on the weekend. You can hear me there or on radio stations or NBCSportsRadio.com. I'm on Saturday and Sunday, 3 to 6 p.m., 3 to 6 p.m. And those are really the best ways.
I'm so calling you tomorrow, by the way. I am so getting on the line, and we're going to have the funniest conversation ever. As we're at the time of recording this, we're recording this during the PGA Championship, which obviously I'm imagining Kate is kind of jacked about as a golf fan. Which I'm going to lead into 2 more questions here because I am kind of curious. We all have our idols and people that we look up to. So I'm going to ask 2 people that you look up to. Who do you look up to as a speaker in the speaking industry, and who do you look up to in the broadcasting and sports radio, or in sports broadcasting for that matter? I'll not just limit it to radio. Who are your 2 idols in those particular areas?
Jay Baer. I really admire Jay Baer. I've been following him, and I ran into somebody that works with him at a thing that I spoke at called SmadCon, Social Media All Day Long. It was in Charleston, South Carolina, a few weeks ago, and they were telling me what it was, how great it was to work with Jay, and what he was doing social media wise. And I've seen him speak several times, and I really enjoy his style. He's very authentic, and I don't see how you could leave any event where Jay was speaking and not take some sort of nugget away. If you applied it, how you could use that to propel yourself in some direction. So Jay Baer is really the guy that I'm very high on right now. That's for sure. And I admire what he's done with his business too, because I know his background. And so to me, it's exciting to watch where he's gone. And then I would say broadcasting wise, boy, that's such a great question. And it's tough because I had some influences. I didn't necessarily have somebody that I was striving to be, but I would say broadcasting wise, I really admire what I've seen in, probably Greg Gumbel, and maybe because I've had some conversations with him about how he started, and I've spent some time around him. So I would put him down as somebody that I admired. I would also say Vin Scully, who was the longtime Dodger announcer, and he spent some time with me and gave me some great tips. And I grew up on the East Coast, so I listened to other announcers, but he had an impact on the pauses I used when I talked, because I had a tendency, again, that East Coast thing, to talk a little bit faster. So he had an impact, and he's retired, but I really admired him and what he was able to do.
Vin Scully, my father grew up as a Brooklyn Dodger fan, which meant after the Dodgers left for LA, you either hated the Dodgers for doing so and became a Yankees fan, or you waited until, the Mets were unearthed, which he then, of course, imbued that onto me, which might not have been the best thing in the entire world. But we used to listen to Vin Scully and how he would tell the story. No one has ever seamlessly weaved the most random story you'll ever hear in your entire life into the pitches that take place within an inning, and it's such a wonderful voice to listen to, and bringing it full circle, which will cue up very much to our next question. In the movie for Love of the Game, they obviously had him be the play-by-play announcer for that particular baseball game, which Kevin Costner was in throughout, and to have him tell the story is so great, just to hear the whole Vin Scully piece. So it really epitomized one of the best voices. So I hear you on that. Just going back to Jay Baer, you and I were just in Dallas, and he was just inducted into the NSA's Hall of Fame, which was pretty cool and obviously well deserving. And he's quite good and quite energetic as well, which makes him enticing.
Yeah, I like his authenticity, right?
Yeah. Oh, he's as real as it gets. And then I spoke to him in person afterwards, and there was no difference. And I think that is always the best, that you love to see that the person who is in front of you giving a message is exactly that person all the time. And that level of authenticity is why he's so successful and why he's so good. He really, really does connect with his audience and deliver. I love what you said. Every time you hear him speak, you take away some form of nugget of value. Yep. That's really great. Kate Delaney, your all-time favorite movie?
The Godfather. I love The Godfather. Were you expecting me to say that? Just swim with the fishes.
So it's interesting, Kate. I think, we have done over 200 some odd interviews on Thrive Loud, and this is airing. This is somewhere in the 190s. There's still many more to come. Godfather, without a doubt, 1 or 2 or whatever, is always listed as one of the most popular ones. So I'll ask this question: what specifically connects that movie to you?
There's something about Al Pacino playing Michael and being this guy who is the good guy in the family and then is pulled into the family business and so easily assumes that role. And I think because also, too, I grew up in the East Coast, and I grew up in a really ethnic neighborhood, and we would play the dozens and joke around with each other and whatnot. And it reminds me of that. It reminds me of growing up and sort of that rough and tumble thing. And, down the street, we think that's so-and-so, and they may be paying off the guy, you know what I mean? And it just makes me laugh, some of what they talk about in the movie. But I really do connect to that character, Michael, and how they take you down that path of he's the good guy. Then he gets into the family business, which is not what his father wanted. And he so easily assumes that role and becomes the leader of the group.
I love it. And there's so many angles of it. And thanks for sharing this, because this has been great. Kate Delaney, this has been awesome. And I knew it would be, because when I first met you, I'm like, oh man, she's just truly what Thrive Loud is all about. And excited for your book, excited to continue to hear you speak. I'm even more excited to call you on a Saturday and try and get onto your radio program. And I hope you had fun today on Thrive Loud.
I did. Thanks, Lou, for having me on. I appreciate it.
And it's great to have you. And to all the Thrive Loud listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
Little roller up along first, behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Thrive Loud. Or find us on the web at thriveloud.com.